All ministerial nominees face the Senate today on day 4 as they speak on what it could do to make a difference in the Buhari's cabinet. And the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Adams Oshiomhole, says he's sure the new set of ministerial nominees are capable of delivering on the party's next level agenda. We'll find out how far. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm sure Kimbaloya, Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos. It's been some past 4 days or so on this ministerial screening of some of the 43 names that the president has sent to the Senate. Today is day 4. It started on Wednesday through Thursday and Friday, and today it's out of the usual plenary of the National Assembly, especially the Senate, that is saddled with the responsibility of screening nominees and appointments from the executive. So today we'll be talking about the agenda that has been set before this government, the crop of people the president is putting together for his cabinet, what they have on their hands, and the way forward. Well, the national chairman of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, is optimistic that the crop of people on the ministerial list are capable of delivering on the next level agenda of the Buhari-led administration. He was at the State House earlier today to meet with the president, and they had a meeting behind closed doors. Take a listen to him.
You will find that people started dismissing the list even before they saw it. Just like there are some other things Nigerians reject without knowing the meaning. So what you and I should insist on is that in our last, in the president's second term, in this next level, our party and our government at the federal, state, and local government level must deliver. That is the entry point for the ordinary Nigeria. And when you talk of patronage, should we appoint, have you heard Americans appointing Russians because they are experts to go and preside over American MDAs? My friend, patronage can be positive, can be negative. But if there is one man who has shown the capacity to patronize all, including where he did not win election, it is President Muhammadu Buhari. Otherwise, where we get less than 5%, I saw 2 ministers coming from that state, in spite of the fact that he got less than 5% there. That speaks volumes about a large heart, the heart to accommodate, to appreciate, and to have an all-inclusive government. I'm very optimistic that these ministers coming, all of us working together, the party, the executive, which the ministers belong, and the National Assembly, in which we have overwhelming majority, we have what it takes to take Nigeria to the next level. And the next level, we are going there.
All right, they've been talking to Nigerians about the next level. Well, some of the idea of the next level President Buhari was talking about is on the fact that whatever they've done in the first time, they are going to build on it. Today's plenary or today's screening process appears to be a bit different. There has been a little bow and go scenario, which a lot of Nigerians have been talking about, that they have not been able to see a proper grilling or engagement of some of those who want to be in the federal cabinet, being asked questions and responding on their capability. But critical issues were raised in today's screening process. And some of the highlights or high points of the conversation, especially when Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola appeared, it got a lot of Nigerians talking. Take a listen to him, what he said about the issues of power, works, and housing, especially on the matter of funding. He has an idea, and we'll talk about it tonight. Take a listen to him.
In response to your question, what do I suggest? I think there is some opportunity, and I made this presentation during the last 2019 budget presentation, that one of the ways I think is to expand instruments like the Sukuk. Maybe it won't be a Sukuk this time, but I think Nigeria can seek to leverage from the large pool of funds with ordinary people who are looking for secure investments, and some of them are not even in the banking sector, keeping their cash. And I propose then that we should consider something like a 10 trillion naira infrastructure bond, backed by parliamentary support and secured by the federal government with a reasonable coupon, issued in tranches each year we need to fund infrastructure, and broken up into even very small denominations that people can invest as much as only 1,000 naira. Those who want to invest 1 billion can do so, and so on. And in my view, if we don't try this, we won't know whether it has worked. But I am convinced that we can do something along this line based on the interest that I saw in the sukuk. In 100 billion sukuk, for example, there were 186 or 286 investors. And the instrument was oversubscribed, which meant that there was an appetite for it. And so I will make that suggestion, sir.
Mr. Babatunde Fashola spoke for almost 2 hours, different from what we saw. A few sparkle, a few of some of these nominees that Nigerians are talking about, different from those whom they saw bow and go because they served in the National Assembly. Some of them they call the superstar of the cabinet of the 43-man list. Well, let's take a look at another one of today's nominee who was craned. He's a former governor of Osun State, Ralph Aregbesola. He is the one talking about taxing the poor, taxing more on the rich to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. Take a listen to his idea.
We have left the rich men in Nigeria without discharging their responsibilities to the citizens, particularly on taxation. So I'm going to pioneer privileged taxes for those who have huge resources or wealth from which Nigerians must tap. If I go into this, there might be some ill feelings in some quarters. I won't go deeper than that. I will recommend serious taxation for wealthy people in Nigeria. If that will now translate into lifting the burden on the states and the local government to reduce their penchant for taxes that make poor people still give out of their inadequate resource, of course, I will have been satisfied. So I will advocate a just taxation system that will breed inequality in our polity.
Well, hold your guns, everyone. I know you have some disappointment. Some of you think about the positives and some people are thinking about the negatives. For a moment, I've drawn out a few talking points tonight that will generate some of the conversation that we'll be having on the program tonight. My panel is ready, and both of them are lawyers. They are very critical in their thinking. Perhaps you will say they are of different school of thought. Well, I have Mr. G.T. Ogunye, a friend of the House and one of our election consultants. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
It's my pleasure.
And I have in our Abuja studio Mr. Daniel Bwala, a lawyer, and he's a member of the APC, and he's gotten appointment today as an advisor in the National Assembly to the Deputy Senate President to lead the legal team and all of that for constitutional purposes. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your appointment. A lot of people have said maybe you were going to be appointed or nominated as a minister, but I guess this role might suffice for now. But let's get talking tonight. Mr. Ogunye, you're disappointed. Therefore, a lot of people have talked about what the 1, 2, 3 had represented. And go scenario. We saw people like Festus Keyamo. We saw a few people who spoke, and some people applauded them. But today, Fashola, Aregbesola, we've heard Geoffrey Onyema also speak. But some of the issues that have been raised today, you heard Fashola, you heard Aregbesola. Your thoughts?
Well, generally, I think that they spoke eloquently, and they spoke with passion, with knowledge and understanding of the subjects that were thrown up in the course of asking them questions. And I think that that's generally commendable. But I have a general critique of the entire process of the confirmation hearing. And I'm using the word, the language of the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't use the word screen, it uses confirmation. I'm not satisfied with the tradition of blind screening nominees for undisclosed offices. It's like walking in the dark for both the nominees and those who are screening them. Perhaps the only person who knows the offices that they will be occupying is the president, who has not disclosed the offices that will be assigning the nominees to. And I think that that does disservice to the screening process. Elsewhere, I won't use the cliche Senate climb because I think that we're saying climb here in spite of our challenges. Elsewhere, you hear President of the United States taps somebody for commerce, taps somebody for homeland security. Right from the announcement, you know who is going for what office. Ditto for what we have in the UK and elsewhere. In Nigeria, right from 1999, we've had this tradition of just, playing with the intelligence of Nigerian people in the nomination process and the screening process. And I thought that this government that came on the mantra of change in 2015 would abandon that tradition. I'm really, really happy about that because confirmation means, if you look at the wordings of the provision of Section 147 of the Constitution and 148, confirmation means that you are confirming a person to a specified office for which he shall be nominated, for which he shall be appointed following the confirmation. Now, what are we now being told? Are we just being told that this confirmation is about eligibility to be made a minister at all? I don't think that that's the purpose.
So the foundation was faulty.
The foundation is faulty. But that said, they've performed, brilliantly. What is usually the challenge in this part of the world is how to move the talk to action. And unfortunately, we've not seen much of that because politicians are hobbled by a number of factors, including factors that they don't create, that are outside their own control as appointed public officers. And so we have a problem with that. It will be interesting to see how things can move faster. I just give an example to the closing. We can talk a lot about how there is paucity of fund to do the number of things that we're aiming to do. And I'm referencing what Mr. Fachola said today, that we don't have all the money to do all the big things that we want to do. But I cite one example, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. How long did it take the military regime of that era to cut out that Virgin Road? The old Ikorodu Road in Lagos was the old Lagos-Ibadan Road. Through Jebode, Chaga, things like that and all that. That road, this Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was a Virgin Road cut out. But this road is now being repaired now. I think this is the 10th year. And we're not done yet. So that does not give confidence that those who go into public office see the seriousness our infrastructure deficit, for example, deserve, as well as all the deficits we have in our national life, including education, healthcare delivery, etc., etc.
That's a good point to take a pause. Mr. Bwala, from the point of view of the APC, and also you also speak as a lawyer also, but we'll come back from a break. We'll take a short break. But when we come back, we'll hear your opinion about his administration and the cabinet list. The chairman of the party says that this is the right team to deliver on the next level agenda. I guess a lot of Nigerians will want to hear Mr. Bwala's opinion, but we'll be right back after this break, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Almost 200 million Nigerians have been watching for the past few days. The 43-man that President Muhammadu Buhari had put together to form his cabinet. Some people say they are too much. Some people are saying the way the Senate had composed or had run the screening process is not so good. So we are analyzing some of these issues. Mr. Daniel Bwala has been a guest on the program for the past few minutes. He's been in our Abuja studio, and Mr. GT Ogunye, one of our election consultants. Thanks so much for coming on today. Let me quickly switch to Abuja studio. Mr. Bwala, a lot of criticism have gone into the caliber of people that the president had brought into his cabinet. In fact, the PDP today is saying that that list should be submitted to the EFCC. We've had people that said, look, there are 2 old people in that cabinet. Some people have said, look, this is a list of political expediency. What is happening in the APC? Well, can these people perform?
Well, thank you for having me. You know, that is the curse of politics, that sometimes when you attempt to marry politics and governance, you'll be forced to use rice and beans to serve a menu. But you will only hope that rice will play its role and beans will play its role. There are quite a number of Nigerians who have their personal opinion about individuals that were nominated for confirmation. We can only wish them the best and hope that when they get in to their respective offices, they will be able to function in delivering governance to the Nigerian people. But permit me, Shaun, to just weigh in on the issue of confirmation and why portfolios are not attached to it. I think the problem is with the Constitution. If you look at the relevant section of the Constitution that talks about the appointment of ministers, it said there shall be a minister who will be appointed as minister of the government of the Federation. Then he said the minister, that will be subject to confirmation by the Senate. So it seems that when you appear before the Senate, you appear as a minister of the government of the Federation, and you are going to be judged on the integrity of the minister of the government of the Federation, irrespective of the portfolio. But I think that we need an enactment of a law that can be like Ministerial Confirmation Act, where we will have in detail all that we need as a requirement for nomination of people to become ministers and the screening process. Because even in America, they don't do the confirmation in plenary. Usually confirmation are relegated to relevant committee. So if A is appointed as Minister of Justice, he will be sent to the Committee on Justice, because the people there are believed to have cognate knowledge and experience. They will be able to interview the president. But you see, what we have is plenary. So in the same way you're looking at the executive probably criticizing them, the National Assembly as well. So when somebody stands and is being interviewed, he's going to be interviewed by people who have knowledge in what they're asking him and who don't have knowledge in what they're asking him, most probably. So we need, in my opinion, to enact a law that will give us the nitty-gritty of all that is required, because to be a minister is not a child's play in Nigeria.
Mr. Bwala, speak to, just a moment.
Ministers,
yeah, I like you to speak to the competencies and some of the ideas. A lot of people have criticized also that some of these nominees are speaking about their own personal ideas, that necessarily these people will be working for the president and the dictates of the president. They are lieutenants to the president, and they will be doing the agenda of the president. So, for example, a 10 trillion idea of Mr. Fashola, an idea, a proposition, Mr. Aregbesola, who is saying that he will advocate that the rich will be more taxed in Nigeria. These are ideas. How can this fly in a federal system of government?
Well, last week, I think Wednesday, I was privileged to be in council chambers of the presidential villa with the national chairman of the party when the president gave his opening remarks. You see, that presidential roundtable dialogue is to set the agenda and be able to fashion out what the government requires from each and every ministry. But I am not appointed for that purpose. I will defer this question to the relevant people appointed by government to speak to these issues.
Well, a lot of Nigerians who have shown their disappointment on one hand, and when the chairman of the party says they will perform, is there really hope in this crop of new next-level cabinet member or the next-level team of President Buhari? Should Nigerians be hopeful?
I deeply apologize, Mr. Sheun, that you permit me to reserve my comment regarding the competence or otherwise of the ministerial nomination.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, what do you make of that? Are you hopeful that something different will come out of this team?
I'm not.
What makes you think?
And it's not because I feel that individually they are not good. These are eminent personalities. These are people who are well accomplished. I don't think that this kind of system that we run, which I had taught in 2015, was up for modification and serious amendment, even within the constraints of the law, in terms of ethics, in terms of behavior, in terms of how you carry on in public offices, in terms of morality in office, given what we've seen in the past 4 years. So I don't think that we're going to see the kind of stellar performance that we thought. And this was like a myth in 2015.
But if they perform above your expectation, they will surprise you, isn't it?
They will surprise me. I don't think that the system is designed in such a way to make them perform. I can give examples.
So Nigerians should not be hopeful about this. They should just maybe expect the same of the same that we've seen in the past.
I won't sell pessimism to Nigerians. You know, in difficult situations, sometimes you only live by hope. I'm telling you.
So, I mean, Adegbeshola,
because you just
Fashola,
live by hope.
Keyamo, a few others that are in that team. There are a lot of people who are hoping that, well, this guy seems to be very active and they know what they're doing.
I'm not saying that they don't know what they are doing individually. But I'm talking about working in government when, by our experience, government has largely failed. I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility. And so when you look at that, they can only try as much as they want to try. But I'm talking about a systemic problem that will not make. Look. If you ask me, for example, there's something that has to be done about the way we govern. We've talked a lot about the cost of governance, but people get into government and do not bother about it any longer. You just as a teaser, you heard that whereas Nigerians were saying that, oh, what legislation were taking was too much, what we were greeted with was a welcome allowance, and some of them complaining that they were being given pittances. So that's the kind of arrangement that we have. And so with that kind of arrangement, it's tough.
We need to go now.
Excellence.
Yeah, we need to go now. But I must allow Mr. Bwala to give his closing remark, and it's going to be in 20 seconds. Your own closing remarks on this ministerial screening and all the rest.
Well, the only concern that some people, have articulated even in social media is that if, for example, someone has been a governor for 8 years where he is the chief executive officer, he has the resources, he has the manpower, he has even the security, and is unable to do anything in his state, whether he will be able to perform magic as minister when he will not be like in the case he was as a governor. So, but we will hope, because life is about hope. Somebody that was bad yesterday might be better today and tomorrow. So we keep hope alive. We'll only respect the choices of the decisions of the president and hope the best for him.
Mr. Daniel Bwala, congratulations again on your appointment, and I wish you the very best in the coming days. Mr. GT Ogunye, thank you so much for coming on. Well, I hope one day you'll be appointed to as a minister.
With a list attached.
With a portfolio attached to you. That's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Akimbale. Bye-bye.